Hi everyone, Kieran here. Today we're gonna finish the project that we started in the previous videos, and go at part 3, which is, if you didn't watch the previous videos, to take the current temperature and your current location and basically create a gradient that will automatically map the current temperature to color, and to make like a gradient of colors using the minimum temperature of the day, the maximum temperature of the day, and your current value. So over time, if you just let the patch run in the background, it will actually change as the day progresses. So if we go back to our cables, this is where we were. Basically, we had this open weather API to fetch all the values. We create our API, we called and did the AJAX request to get the current value, and then we imported in a color map. We mapped it as a color array, so a flattened array of triplets, and create this range where we get the current temperature in Celsius degree. We define the minimum temperature and maximum temperature, and then we map this range to the current index of the color map. And because it can happen that the index is in between values, because our color map has 256 values, then as you can see here, our range is in between 38.81. Then we need to interpolate the two values from our array, so between array, the index 38 and the index 39. And basically with this operator, do an interpolation of the red channel, the blue channel, and the green channel. Or the red, green, and blue, sorry, RGB. And then basically from this operator, we had the red, green, and blue values, and then we put that as in the clear color, and we have a static background, which changes still depending on your location and the current temperature. What we need to finish now is to create the gradient. So we have 3 different colors, and it's better looking. So to put a gradient, look for another operator, which is called, as you would expect, gradient. And first thing we see here, warning to work, this op needs to be child of ImageCompose. And we didn't really talk about what ImageCompose is and what it does. So this is the perfect occasion to make sure that this operator works. We can look at the other parameters, and basically we have color A, color B, color C, and this is where we need to map our colors. So before that, we need 3 colors, and for now we only have 1, which is the current temperature. So we need to go back to our object that comes from the open weather API and get the minimum value of the day and the maximum value of the day. Very easy. I can just go here, inspect the object, even use this gear here. And this is current, this is the weather now, but if you go to daily, and the 0 value, so the current daily is the current day, and then in the temperature sub-object you have the minimum and maximum value. So I can just pull this number up here with the number here, and automatically it will get the full path and take also the maximum. Click again, and now here automatically you see cable did this for me. So let me put this in the middle, because this is the minimum, current, and maximum number of the day. Maybe I need to clean my patch so I can select things and put everything here. And you see here when I click, this is the path that was needed to actually get the value from the object. So daily, sub-object daily, 0, the first value of the array, temperature and minimum, and would be the same thing for the maximum. So we see here that the maximum temperature is actually to now. So it's interesting that the maximum temperature is what we have right now. So this is very warm here, apparently, in Paris. And the minimum value for today was 8.77 degrees Celsius. So I would need basically to do what we did already here with the map range, and it have exactly the same values. So I'm just going to copy and paste it. Connect, have one map range for the minimum value, have another map range for the maximum value, and then have the same parameters so that we make sure that everything is in sync. Sorry, this goes here. So this maybe was a bit too far. So let me get back, have this guy back here. So this is a bit annoying, the slider, because you have all the values, and I don't really like when all the the links crosses my patches like this. So I'm going to show you another trick to not have that. What you can do in cables is you can create free variables. So instead of having to connect stuff, what you can do is put a variable which is called var set number here. And what it does is basically you connect it to the value that you want. And now you can create a variable and maybe call it min temperature temp. And this is a free variable, so you can pull it everywhere in the patch now. You don't need to connect everything. So I can even disconnect this and create another variable for the maximum temperature, set var set number, connect it to max temperature, create a new variable, call it max temperature. And this allows me to actually not draw and to connect any cables, because I can, pull this value everywhere now in the patch, and this will make the patch much easier to look, to visualize, because this is really annoying to have things that crosses the screen. So I have the min and max temperature. I just need to go back here to my map range and basically connect it back to what we had before. So the old min and old max are the temperature. See that it already took the last values that we put before we connected to the slider. But now I can just go var get number, because I said it before, connect it, and select the variable. I want the min number, min temperature, and I will do the same thing, copy paste, max temperature, and put it in here. Right? So as you can see, I need to have the same minimum and maximum temperature for all the ranges. So I can just now copy paste. Sorry, they're already here. So I can just need to connect them again. Min temperature here and the third map range. And this is the trick. This is why I like to have a straight edges instead of having curved. Because now when I do this, if they are all aligned in the same height, they will basically merge into each other, and this will look much more cleaner. But this is just personal preference, you see. So now with this, I have the mean temperature and max temperature for all my 3 different ranges, right? But I would still need to interpolate them 3 times. One for the value that we had already, and for the rest of the gradient. So I need to copy the same node again, the interpolate number. Maybe I'm going to put this back here, and put this below, try to optimize stuff. Yeah, but you cannot really make the perfect patch like this. It's hard and not to have anything cross, but we try our best here. So interpolate number 3, I'm going to put it 3 times, one for the current number, one for the minimum number, and one for the maximum value. So I'll put this here, map range. But the trick is to align them. So if they are all at the same place, they will basically match here. So let me show you again. I take from the flat array, I connect it here. Sorry. I take from the flat array, flatten array, I connect it here. Take from the flat array and I connect it, it's too far. Flat array and I connect it here. Now it's like all lined up. So this is what I'm doing is exactly the thing that we did before. So this is just copy pasting, very easy. Now, I don't need the clear color anymore. What I need is the gradient, and the gradient has R1, like R1, G1, B1 for the color 1, same thing for color B, and same thing for color C. So I can just drag, copy, put this as the minimum value for the left part of my gradient. If I go from left to right, sorry, I was too fast. RGB, okay. So my minimum value is mapped. Now I put the color in the middle of my gradient, which would be my current temperature. And finally, I put the maximum value, which would be the maximum temperature of the day here on the right. And now I have the colors, but to work, they need to be connected somehow. The gradient doesn't work because nothing is connected to my main loop. And what it says is that to work this, go back here, the gradient needs to be a child of ImageCompose, if you recall. So I'm just gonna put this ImageCompose node, ImageCompose, and what it does, it actually creates like a layer in Photoshop. It's the same thing. You create a new visual channel, like a texture that you can play with, and so you connect things underneath. And this is a bit weird as an operator. You connect, of course, the ImageCompose to the main loop, and this is what we see here. We see that this is our gradient now from the minimum value of the day, the current value, and the maximum value. And because the current is the maximum value right now, we only see two colors, a gradient from the like dark purple to lighter purple here. And the ImageCompose node is a bit different than the other nodes. Basically, what if you click here, compose images and effect as layers to generate new images. What you put underneath is actually the result of all the operation that you put underneath this layer goes back to this particular texture. It's exactly in Photoshop, if you were to create a layer and you put stuff in the layer, this is the output of your layer. It goes here, texture out. So don't forget, what you see below the ImageCompose is not exactly the same loop. It's not the same thing that you have here below the main loop. Once you connect it here, this is its own channel that creates this particular texture. Now, if you need this texture to be put inside the canvas, you can either create a very big rectangle and assign the texture that goes from here with the material, or you can use another operator that does that for you, which is called a full screen rectangle. Connect it, of course, to be a child of render. So you go back to the main loop here. And by default, it's gray, but as you can see, the full screen rectangle takes a texture as an output. So I can connect the texture of my ImageCompose here. And now you would see the whole gradient on our screen. But it's not very clean. So let's try to put things aside like this and put it below so you understand clearly that this is a channel. It's like a layer in Photoshop, and take the output and we output this in a rectangle, which is put in front of the camera like this. So the ImageCompose, I can change the viewport size. I can just put the multiple of 2. This is just a gradient, so it doesn't really matter if it's stretched, but of course, if you were to put an image, let me put, like, for instance, draw image just to show you. So I can add an image on top of my layer here and select in this draw image. Here I need a texture, like a map scar texture. I can click here to find an image. Go here, open the cable. This is like my patches file, but by default cables has like a pre-made images. I can take this beach, for instance. And as you would see, my gradient is this is being drawn on top of my gradient. I can actually change the opacity, and then you would see it's a blend between our gradient and our image. And because here this image does not have the same size as the viewport, as you can see here, this image is just a square. When it's put on the viewport, which is more horizontal, it is being stretched. So this is why you see the beach being deformed. If I put viewport size, well, it's not going to be the same. The texture is still a square image. So now if I stretch it, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be stretched again. I can change the way the texture is being rendered, the different the way it's interpolated. Doesn't really care. It doesn't really matter for what we are doing here. I just wanted to show you that you can draw images and put textures. When you put the image in your texture, you put this into draw image, and you can also flip the texture. You can rotate it if you want, and you see that it's being repeated. For instance, I can scale it like this. So this is I don't know why I wanted to show you that, but this has nothing to do with our gradient. Just wanted to show that now the texture it's being repeated. I can just go nearest, and it's going to be more I don't know, more defined. Depends on the size of the texture and the size of the screen, but we don't really need this for our project now. So if I remove it, we have a gradient, and it's perfect. Now, I told you before, if you watched part 2, that I wanted to show you the texture, the color map itself, because now we see it, but we need to go to another website, and I wanted to show you this in cables. So the good news is it's very easy to do, but you need to create your own operator for that. I'm going to show you why. By default, there's a cool operator that does array 3 to texture. And this converts an RGB value, or an array of RGB values, exactly what we had on our color map, to a texture. I can put this here. And as you can see, maybe you see it's very small here. It's going to be like the color map. So maybe we need to stretch it again. Let me go back to our draw image. Put this as a child of ImageCompose. Instead of having the beach as we had before, I can just put the array here as an image. And now we would see our texture. Click here. But if you are very careful, you would see that something is a bit wrong, because it seems like there's darker values here than at the beginning here, and it's not actually very linear. So maybe you see that something seems to increase. It's not like flat. And if you go compare this to here it's exactly flat. And here it seems that dark part here seems dark, then it goes a bit lighter. It's not actually well aligned, and this comes from the node itself, because basically it tries to take the 256 values and put it into a square, and it start with the first value, go up to the end of the rectangle, go back to the beginning. And so would you actually, instead of having one color map like this, yeah, you see me like this, it basically creates a cube, like a rectangle or a cube. So it goes like this, and it goes back and forth between all the indices. So it's not actually very accurate. It's a very good approximation. So maybe you didn't really notice, then you can see the color map right away like this. But to be very accurate and to be like perfect, you would actually need to edit this node. That's what I did. Just change the values. And so I created my own node, which is called color map to texture, which fixes this difference, which is not wrong. It's just the way the array to texture is implemented. And now if I change this node to here, first it's put in the right order, and then you see now everything is lined up perfectly. So there's no artifact in the way that the indices are rendered as a texture. So this color map to texture is my own operator. I can edit here. So basically I took the code from array 3 to texture, but I just changed the width and height so that it's interpolated a bit differently. It just changed those two lines. And basically now the color map, it can be displayed perfectly. And the cool thing here with this is, because this is a draw image, if you want to tune the color map for some reason, you want to pimp it, more brighter, lighter. Imagine this is just like a Photoshop layer. So I can maybe put a color, Luma key, for instance, to remove some parts of the image, or want to tune it, to put brighter, to put a vignette. I can change the color like this. For instance, I'm gonna edit here, and this will basically, of course, change the whole the way the values are mapped and everything, right? Because now you play with the color map itself. So before, of course, in our case, the color map is taken from the original values of that we had in the array. But to actually take the values of the pixel from the resulting image here, there's another way you can do that using what we call texture picking. So let me show you. Texture pick, color pick, get the color of a pixel in a texture, right? And so this needs to be activated again, so it needs to be rendered. So you can either take the output of the full screen rectangle here, the trigger, or go back to the main loop. And basically what this thing does, it's taking its texture as an input and X and Y value. So this would be exactly, let me remove my key here, would be exactly the same as, but less efficient than doing the interpolation between the values here of our color map. You could basically render the color map as an image and go inside this image with get the colors of the pixel and texture, get the X values here, and get in pixel the exact location of our pixel corresponding to the value that we have in our minimum temperature, current temperature and maximum temperature. Of course, this is very convoluted, but there's an advantage of doing that is because instead of having just the color map as a texture, you can put actually the result of the ImageCompose as a texture here. And so now I can put effects on my layers. Maybe, I don't know, color mask. I don't know what color texture, color map, color channel. I can color balance, for instance. Let's take this one. I can go back to my draw image, and here I can maybe I don't know, boost it, lighten, put less, dark, I don't know, multiply, average the values, scale, so this is, I can play with the texture itself and use this color picking now to pick from this image for my value. So let me go back to my map range for my minimum temperature, for instance. Go back here into the X value. So the thing is now, of course, the range are going to be wrong, because instead of being from -5 to 30 degrees and to 0 to 255, which was my original color map, now I need to map it to the size of my texture here, which is actually 640 pixels, but I can cheat and put as the same size here. So it would be exactly the same size as the color map that we had before. And basically here the mapping will be correct, right? From the interpolate the map range, we'll actually get the right pixel from the X plane here, X axis, and pick from this texture and take this result RGB and put this, for instance, in my in my gradient. So I will disconnect the values in the middle, RGB, and put the ones that we picked from this particular texture, RGB. Yeah, it's a bit convoluted, sorry, I'm trying to find the right way to optimize this. And instead of displaying, of course, the full screen rectangle, we of course display the gradient, and somehow it should work. ImageCompose, wait, full screen rectangle. Well, yeah, it's not gonna work. Draw image, I can, yeah, let me check again. Yes, because the gradient is being over, so what I would need to actually see it would be to create another ImageCompose, because this is being overwritten by the other one. So let me try ImageCompose again. Check here. You see what I did, which was not actually a good idea. Can I? No, damn, it's disconnected. If you shake your node here, it's going to be completely disconnected. So let me just go back here. This is just a color map where we create our effects. Now I'm going to put this as and drawing this in another ImageCompose. So I'm going to do another draw image. But I don't even need to do a draw image actually. I need the gradient though. So here I can put it there. This is a random gradient. Go back to mapping these values. R, G, B. Yes. And now take instead of having the other values that we took, I can pick it from the texture. This is what I wanted to do. R, G, and B. And the final value that we had before, the right part, the maximum temperature of the day, G and B. And you see now we have a different gradient. So this does the color picking and basically writes everything to a full screen rectangle here. Trying to make it cleaner, the patch, to put this thing here. And put this here. See, so now if I change this, the middle value should change, as you can see, right? Because the middle value now is being picked from this ImageCompose channel, which is crazy because now I'm doing scaling of the texture. But this is just to show you that you can create effects on the texture itself and use that with the texture color pick to basically drive the gradient. So I hope that this video was informative. I know it was a bit long because we have 3 different parts, but I hope it gives you a good understanding of how cable works. Let's, if you have any comment, you can leave it below the video. I will try to create other types of tutorial where we see other aspects of cables and, get you familiar with the tools. Maybe the next one will be about more dataviz like, maybe a bar chart, how we can map. Once again, dataviz is all about mapping values to visual objects, whether it could be shapes or colors and anything like this. And you can do this quite easily with cables. I hope that you like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.